Let's talk about your roots. I'm not talking about your plant roots, although we will be talking about that today, but I'm talking about your roots. Now, the most important part of being confident is your foundation. You are responsible for maintaining your foundation, but your family actually builds your roots. The most important part of a plant is not its leaves, it's actually its root system. So sometimes the leaves look pretty good, but below the surface, the roots are actually starting to rot, and we don't actually catch it sometimes until it's too late. And we can actually see signs of it. So that would be like yellowing leaves, it's dropping leaves, it's not actually growing. All of these things happen below the surface first. And that's really true of you as well. Like I said, your family is responsible for cultivating your root system when you're a baby. And I understand that we all don't come from great families. Now, I grew up in a household with a really strong mom who protected us from a lot of things, but could not protect us from everything. And I had an alcoholic father. And so I definitely understand growing up in chaos. And you know, I really had to figure out how to live as a happy, healthy, whole adult, despite the bad and traumatic things that I experienced as a child. Now, I understand now that they were doing their best. And unfortunately, he lived in a household with an alcoholic and some domestic violence and all kinds of things that are really scary, traumatic things that families pass generation to generation. Now, that root system, the moment a child, actually before the child's born, like if we're looking at some recent studies, that child is being taught things by their parents. So if their needs are not met, they're learning that they can't trust anyone. And that just gets worse and worse if the parents don't actually take a strong position in really trying to cultivate an environment where that child can thrive. Now, fantastic. If that is the life that you've lived, that is not the life that I've lived. Now, like I said, my mom is my best friend and I can depend on her for everything. And despite that, there are still some things I had to learn how to do myself. And so while your root system is cultivated by your parents initially, that foundation must be maintained by you. And so you have to actively undo that root rot that you've experienced in childhood. Now, that is much, much, much easier said than done. I definitely understand that. It sucks. It's hard. It hurts. It's isolating. All of this stuff is necessary, but it is not easy. And so I don't want to leave the impression that undoing childhood trauma is easy. It takes work. There will be setbacks. There will be times where you're like, all right, I did this thing, great. I'm thriving, life is going great. And then boom, you hit, something triggers you. And so you have to then go back to what it feels like step one, or like you even going back further than step one because the trigger rattled you so much. And so this isn't a lifelong journey. So make sure that you are ready to continue maintaining your life. And as you're willing to work for it, you'll become more confident in several areas. I know that I said that I'm a confidence coach and that I help people rebuild their confidence, but I don't do anything. Really, I'm a support system. I can help you understand or see things where maybe you have a blind spot. I can help you identify things that may be triggering you, but I'm not a therapist and I'm not you, so I can't do the work for you. So you really want to make sure that you are ready and willing to do work if you want to start living more confidently and showing up more confidently in your daily life. Let's talk about the signs of root rot. So in a plant, it may look green and beautiful and lovely, and then you start seeing leaves like this, where it's starting to brown a bit. Now above the surface, it looks pretty good. It might be struggling a little bit, but I don't understand what's going on in that root system until I actually look at it. Your plant or your life may look perfect. It may be beautiful, but below the surface, you might have browning roots, mushy roots, dried out roots. And then you start seeing signs above the surface that things are not, they're not what they actually seem. And so that's the same thing that we experience in life. So life looks grand. And I think a lot of people get caught up because we're in such a social media society now that everyone's living this fabulous life and this person has 10,000 followers or they have 4 million followers and they have all this money and they're just living and loving and life is grand. But what you don't see is what they're battling deep down inside. They're not going to show you that on the internet. So we have to be realistic about chasing what other people are doing and really focus on ourselves. For me personally, I found it easier to stop watching what other people are doing and just do what feels good for me. And I knew what traumas I had. I knew what triggers I had. And so I can only focus on myself. I don't know what they're going through or what they went through to get where they are. And a lot of people look like it's instant success, but they've been battling, trying to be successful for 20 years, 10 years before they actually went viral. And so it's important to really focus on ourselves. And I always say, treat your plants like an individual. And it really seems intuitive to treat yourself like an individual, but we don't always approach life that way. You have to treat yourself as an individual, even if you are in a family environment. So I have a large family. When I say large family, like my grandparents had a lot of kids. They had a farm. They needed farm hands. And so they had a lot of kids. So I have a huge family. I'm an individual in that family structure, and I have to set boundaries and conditions for my life that feels good for me, that allows me to approach every day with confidence and grace for other people and grace for myself. And so a lot of that was unpotting myself, taking a look at my roots. How was I raised? What type of household did I grow up in? What type of parents did I have? I had one that was very authoritative. That was my mom. She had rules, but she also was someone that I could go to with any problem, question, concern, and I wouldn't have judgment. She would not tell my business to other family members, but she had rules and she enforced those rules, and I was punished. Now, she didn't beat me. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times she's popped me. That's not the type of parent she was. And then I had another parent who had their own battles going on and demons, and this parent really had to shield me from that. Now imagine those two parents in one household, married until I was 18 years old. And so it was chaos. And so understanding how I was raised, how I show up in the world, is based on the way that my roots were set by my parents. And so I had to learn to go in and unpack all of that. It's a hard work. You're gonna cry, you're gonna wanna punch things, you're gonna break things, you wanna do all these things. You might wanna rage against the system. And I still feel like that sometimes, where I'm like, I just want to break things, because I never had that chance as a child. I was the oldest girl, the third born. So I was a middle child, oldest girl. And so that put me in a really weird position where I was taking care of my older siblings who were boys and my younger sister. And so I didn't have the opportunity to really rebel. I did a little bit, don't get me wrong. I am not perfect. I was not a perfect child. I was for sure not a perfect teenager. But I did what I was supposed to do. And even still, with both of my parents doing the best they could with what they had, I became an adult who allowed men to talk crazy, allowed men to move in, allowed men to, I really just felt like that was a hole in my life. And I had to then understand that the way that I'm seeking companionship now as an adult is because of the way that I was raised. that's hard to say, especially when you love your parents. It's hard to say that they did the best they could, but the best they could still hurt me. And yeah, that's tough. That is not an easy statement to make, but when you realize it, then you can change the way that you present yourself in the world. Now, I had a conversation with a coworker a couple of days ago, well, a couple of weeks ago now probably, and she said, you know, you hold really firm boundaries at work. And I do. I hold really firm boundaries at work. I'm here to work. I will do a great job. I will do what I need to do, but I hold really firm boundaries at work. I did not always hold really firm boundaries at work. Again, I had to unpack what was causing me to not show up in a way that was comfortable for me. It's easy to do things for other people and to neglect yourself. And it's hard to say I'm neglecting myself and to change that. A lot of the times I feel like we know we're neglecting ourselves. We know we're giving other people more than we give ourselves. The hard part is not doing that. It's changing and not overextending yourself to other people at the deprivation of yourself. And so what did I do to start changing? I talked about that when you're looking at a plant, you're gonna have black mushy roots. It may smell a little bit. Let's talk about what that looks like in our lives. So you may have, I hate to say it, a messy house. You may be doing so much for other people that you don't have the mental or physical capacity to do anything else in your home. That could be a sign. It's not always a sign. It could be you might just be a messy person. I don't know your life. But what I found was when my house is in chaos and there's piles of clothes on the bed, this is a chair in my bedroom, which is where we are right now. And if I have clothes stacked high in this chair, there's a problem. If you're a plant collector, your plants may not be watered on time. They may start suffering and withering, and you might even overlove them because it's the only thing that you have control of right now. There's lots of different things. You might be overspending money. I'm just talking like everything that I'm telling you is that something that I did. When I'm overspending money, I know something is going on because I like to see my bank account grow. And so if I'm spending, something is going on and I need to address it. How did I fix these things? Therapy. I don't care what anyone says, and I know in the Black community it's still very taboo to talk about mental health and therapy and whatever. I got my butt in therapy. I went to a therapist once a week. Sometimes I would call in an emergency session and be like, I need you. I can't do this. I need you. I did a lot of like self-reflection, and something that I really liked that I saw from Iyanla Vanzant when she was on this TV show, like, oh God, I don't know. It had to be like 20 years ago. And I remember it perfectly. She did something called a write and burn, and I have done it ever since. You write down every single thing that comes to your mind that is negative, and then you burn it and you let it go. And literally just the act of burning it and letting it go is so empowering, and it's very freeing. And I actually haven't had to do one in quite a while, several years now. But I would do one often anytime I felt myself talking negatively about myself, because your internal monologue becomes your reality. And you're the only person who can control that internal monologue. It's not going to be easy to change it, but there are avenues and things that you can use to change it. So I went to therapy. I did lots of self-reflection work, and I got closer to God. So this is something I don't talk about publicly a ton, but I am a Christian. I got in this Bible. It is very well loved. This is actually a new one because my last one was falling apart because it was so well loved. So this is a newer Bible, and once my Bible starts falling apart, I'm actually trying to find an example of what I do. So you want to get in and write. So this, like I said, this is a new one. And any time that I have gone all the way through the Bible, I've probably been through the Bible twice now in the last 7 years. And I will go through and highlight things that impact me. I feel like sometimes we're like, I don't know where to start in the Bible. The Gospels are always a great place to start at Matthew and then keep going. I'm not a biblical scholar, but I get in this word. I don't preach to other people because I feel like I'm not in a place where that makes sense. Like, I never put myself in a position of like knowing all things about God, because I don't. I'm still learning. We're all still learning, but getting in the Bible heavy has helped me. Heavy doesn't mean 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, 7 days a week. That's not what I mean. I mean every day, 5 minutes if that's all you have the capacity for. I think we put ourselves in a position where I'm gonna go to therapy every week. I'm gonna read my Bible every day. That's not realistic for you. Why are you setting yourself up to fail out the gate? And then you don't go to therapy every week, and you don't go in the Bible every single day. And now you feel bad. And because you feel bad and you feel guilty about it, you just don't do it at all. So I want you to focus on actually doing what you have capacity for. Remember, you're dealing with traumas, you're dealing with triggers. You have to kind of unlearn that stuff. And the process of unlearning and resetting those expectations and setting firm boundaries, it's going to be the friction. The friction is what gets you through it. And if you're not having friction, you're probably not addressing what really needs to be addressed. That was a lot. This is a little bit heavier than I wanted it to be, but I think it's necessary. I just want you to be kind to yourself and like be honest with yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, you're really not being honest with anyone else. But being honest with yourself doesn't mean that you have to be nasty and mean to yourself. And I think a lot of us default to mean to ourselves because we're not comfortable being mean to other people. I'm a reformed savage, apparently. I have definitely been described as a savage before. And a lot of that, I think, is people's reactions. Now, let me qualify this statement before I make it. I tend to think people are mostly good. They're inherently good. I've always felt this way. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt initially. But if you prove me wrong, I have to believe you. And so then I interact with you accordingly. I think some people are afraid to be, I don't want to say mean, are afraid to be mean to other people. So they're mean to themselves. And I don't think you should be mean to people. That is not what I'm saying. God, this is probably going to sound really bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't be so nice to other people that you're only mean to yourself. And being mean setting a boundary is not being mean. And I think I'm using mean because a lot of people misinterpret a boundary for being mean or rude. And that's not what it is. A boundary is self-protection. A boundary is a limit for yourself, not a limit for the other person. So if I say, please don't speak to me that way, I don't like it, and you speak to me that way, and I never speak to you again, the boundary was, don't speak to me that way, and you did it anyway. I'm not doing anything to you. I've just removed myself from the situation, and I'm not going to give you the opportunity to disrespect me or speak negatively or rude to me. And so I think a lot of people they think that's rude. And they think the fact that I've removed myself from the situation and I refuse to interact with someone who is disrespectful or crosses a boundary with me, that I'm the rude one. When in actuality, what's rude is the person crossing your boundary and then you accepting it. And because you feel bad that you allowed them to cross that boundary, then you say mean stuff to yourself like, oh God, I'm so stupid. I deserve this. I was wrong, when you're probably not wrong. You set a boundary for a reason. You just need to be confident enough to reinforce it. And so that confidence comes with practice. And you'll hear me say this all the time. Confidence is not innate. Some people are like naturally confident. It doesn't mean you're not going to be nervous. It doesn't mean you're not going to have like reservations about things. It doesn't mean that it's going to be right or perfect every time. Confidence comes with practice. And if you're avoiding practicing being confident, you're never going to be confident. And so what I want you to do is take a look at your roots. How were you raised? What traumas are you avoiding? What triggers are you avoiding? And what are, if you really want to learn to interact with the world and be more happy, more content with life, I think that contentment comes that you're confident in the person that you are. And so when I say confidence, I don't mean you're gonna go out there in a bathing suit and like strut your stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being so confident that you are content being yourself. I know exactly who I am now. I didn't always understand who I am. And so that allowed me to interact with people and the world in ways that didn't always feel good or kind to myself. And so now that I do understand who I am and I like the person that I am, it's easier for me to say, no, I'm not gonna do that. No, I don't wanna do that. And have that no be the end of the conversation. It's content living the life and presenting myself as Lenore. And I want that for you as well. I want you to be so content with yourself, so confident that you are authentically yourself, that what other people do or say or their opinions don't really affect you. Now, does that mean that someone says, Lenore, you suck, that's not gonna bother me? Of course, I'm still human, but it doesn't change the way that I interact with the world. Now, I would never talk to that person again, but I would still show up as myself. I would still be myself. I would still post on social media. I would still have gone to college for psychology. I would have opened the plant shop. I would have sold Pure Romance. I would have all of these things that have brought me to Lenore 2025. I would have still done those because I am so happy with who I am today that the struggle and the doubt and the unpacking and the crying and the like wanting to punch things and all of that was worth it to be who I am today. And so I just want that for you so much. I don't even think people understand how much I want other people to win because I get it. Oh God, I might cry. I get it. Life sucks so bad sometimes. Baby, I get it. It sucks. It's hard. But if you can weather the storms and you can push through the discomfort and you can deal with the friction and you can hold your boundaries firm, it's so worth it. Oh my God. It's only episode 2. Y'all don't get it. It's only episode 2 and I'm already crying, y'all. Well, and this is the easy stuff. We haven't even talked about like the crazy stuff yet. Okay, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. This, again, was another episode of Repotting Season. We will post content every week. I'm actually gonna move it from Sundays to Friday. So you're gonna get a double episode this week. I'm so grateful that you are here with me, and please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Send me your feedback. If there's something that you want me to talk about, please send that over to me. I'm Curvy Plant Lady on all platforms, and I'll see you next week.